So again, we have our flattened version of our mockup here. And what we'll do is go into the footer here. I'll zoom in a little bit. And let's tackle this bit right here. Now this has this icon in it, and we're not quite ready to start tackling icons yet. So we'll come back to that, but this copyright symbol is actually plain text. And so we'll be able to figure that out. Again, to create the snippet, I'm going to select the rectangular marquee tool. I'll wrap a box around this. I'll copy it, create a new document, paste it in. We'll save it for the web. We'll go to our project folder, and now our design snippets are going to be under design screenshots. So let's call this footer left. And now let's jump back to our code, and we're going to go to the index.html file, and let's update our screenshot here by changing the title of footer left. And then let's create our HTML structure. So again, we'll put it right below our image so that we can use it as an easy reference. So what we're doing here is creating a new component for footer. Right now we're just focusing on the left part of the footer, but the component still feels like it's the entire footer. That is, we're probably not going to replicate certain parts of the footer on their own. And so at this point at least, they don't need to be their own components. So for our other sections, we've called them sections. But a footer is a little bit different than a section. A footer is something that appears on every page, and so it's not actually part of the content of the page exactly. It's sort of the surrounding skin of it. And if we do a quick search in Google for HTML footer to see if there's a better tag, you'll see pretty quick that we have a footer tag specifically for this purpose. Let's look at the H3 schools and the mozilla.org pages side by side. So on the W3 Schools side, here's a quick example. It's the footer tag with all of the content inside and then end footer. And if we wanted to get a sense of the way this is styled by default, you can scroll down to the bottom and it says the default CSS settings, which is display block. Now we haven't talked about the display CSS property yet, but display block means that it's going to be a box just like any other HTML element, but it will take up the width of the page. So it will bump everything that comes after it down. So even if the footer is small, it will still stretch across the entire page. So pretty simple. It's styled just like the section tag or the div tag. The difference is that using the footer tag gives this section more meaning. So let's go back to our code and we'll begin with an opening footer tag and we'll close that out. And let's look at our design side by side. I'm going to close out the styles for now and we'll move this over and then we'll open up our template on the other side and refresh so we get the new design snippet. And so we have 3 lines here. There's some spacing between the different lines. We could use a generic div tag for these or a paragraph tag. I think either would work in this context because it's not exactly a paragraph in a larger structure of text, but also it does have some meaning textually. And so paragraph might be a good indicator that this is some text to pay attention to. So I'm going to go with a paragraph tag. Now this first symbol, this copyright symbol, if you've never added a copyright before, you might be tempted to use an image, but there are several symbols that are actually part of default font sets, and you can access them using something called an HTML character code. Let's do a quick search for that. Let's do HTML code copyright. As usual, W3 Schools shows up at the top. Let's click on it to see if it has the information that we need. So these are called HTML entities, and it tells you a little bit about the structure, but if we scroll down, we can see the important part, which is the actual symbols. And here we have our copyright symbol. So if we want to use this symbol, we can use this code right here, or this code right here. We'll copy this. So this is an ampersand, the word copy, and then a semicolon, and we'll paste it in here. Let's save it and see if we can see this copyright symbol. We'll refresh, and sure enough, there it is. So now let's add the rest of the text. So ultimately, we'll want to update this year to the current year if we can, but there's no way to do that in plain HTML or CSS. Instead, we have to use JavaScript or PHP, some kind of programming language, in order to pull this in. Okay, let's continue on to the next paragraph. So it's going to be this symbol right here, but we'll skip that and come back to it when we talk about icon fonts. And we'll put in the number. And then we'll add our final line here. Let's save it and refresh in the browser.